I've been using the OnePlus 15 for a couple of days now on this review unit that OnePlus sent me, even though yes, I will be purchasing my own, and this phone has been almost perfect, with only a couple of areas to improve. OnePlus made some bold decisions here. Some of them are genuinely impressive, like the battery and raw performance, and others feel like they stepped a little bit back from what made last year's OnePlus 13 such a standout. Regardless, I really enjoyed this phone, and once it's available to buy in the US, this will quickly become my daily driver. OnePlus is pushing this whole power on, limits off thing with a new performance trinity this year, and the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, a dedicated touch response chip, and a separate Wi-Fi chip all working together, and honestly, it doesn't feel like marketing fluff. This phone just feels very fine-tuned. Let's kick it off with the design and the build quality, because that's one of the areas where OnePlus clearly wanted to reset the identity of its flagship. Gone is the curved body from the 13, you now get this totally flat display, flat back, flat sides, kind of similar to what Samsung did with the S25 Ultra, and even what Apple has been doing on iPhones for a while. The bezels are super uniform and really slim now, so when you're looking at the screen, it almost feels like it's just floating around in your hand. The back of my unit has this soft matte texture that honestly feels more premium than the price suggests. It doesn't pick up fingerprints at all, it's pretty crazy how it works, and the grip is surprisingly good. I absolutely love the way this phone feels in the hand. They're using a new finish that's supposed to be more resistant over time, and it does feel like the kind of texture that's going to age well instead of getting that shiny wear layer on other phones. Also, look at that black color. It truly earns its marketing name of Infinite Black. You can also pick this up in Sandstorm and Ultraviolet, which has this very cool dual texture effect that shifts in the light. There's Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the front, an aluminum alloy frame, and it has basically the full set of IP ratings: IP66, IP68, IP69, and IP69K. In normal person language, that means it's dust tight and can handle being dunked, splashed, and even hit with high pressure water jets, which is pretty impressive. So durability is definitely not a concern when it comes to this phone, and it feels great in the hand, even though I'll be honest, it does feel less slim when comparing it to my OnePlus 13. I think this is mainly due to the more slab-like design that is noticeably boxier on this model. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's something to note if you're concerned. And of course, OnePlus removed the alert slider this year, which is still one of those "why would you take away the thing that everyone loves" decisions, but I guess it was inevitable after we saw the release of the OnePlus 13T. Instead, they introduced this new Plus key on the left side, a customizable button that you can map to almost anything that also looks pretty familiar to another phone out there. It's useful and clearly more customizable than a slider, but the slider was iconic. So while I appreciate the ability to customize my phone more, I will truly miss the classic OnePlus slider. One thing that's important to mention, since many of my viewers are US based like myself, it is currently not available for purchase as of the time of the filming of this video. According to OnePlus's website, it says due to the recent US government shutdown delaying final FCC certification, sales of the OnePlus 15 in the United States are temporarily postponed. But once I'm able to buy this, I am going to do so because I do genuinely enjoy the phone, and a huge reason for this is the incredible display. It's a 6.78-inch LTPO AMOLED panel, and this is actually the world's first 1.5K 165Hz display in a smartphone. In supported games, it can hit a ridiculous 165Hz, and in normal use, it hangs around 120Hz with great animation smoothness. OnePlus also has a dedicated touch response chip this year that gives you up to a 3200Hz instant touch sampling rate, so when you're swiping, flicking, or aiming in a game, it just feels insanely responsive. Visibility outdoors is genuinely excellent. I've had zero issues using it in my Florida sun. Brightness gets extremely high and colors stay very punchy. It supports Pro XDR and covers 100% of the DCI-P3 with 10-bit color, so HDR photos and videos really pop without looking radioactive. You've also got a bunch of eye comfort tools like dimming down to 1 nit, specific eye comfort tweaks, which is nice if you're staring at this phone all day long. Kind of like myself, I'm a little bit addicted to my cell phones, as you can tell. The only thing that feels like a slight downgrade is the resolution. Last year's OnePlus 13 had a sharper QHD panel, and this year we're down to a 1.5K panel. On paper, that sounds like a big step back, but in actuality, it looks incredibly sharp. I was worried about this, but after using it for myself, I truly truly wouldn't consider this a deal breaker if you're on the fence of picking one up. However, performance is where this phone is absolutely insane. The Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 is already a beast, but OnePlus is doing a few extra things on the top that make it even better. They're using their own CPU scheduler instead of the standard Android one, so the phone doesn't leave performance on the table. It feels like they're actually using all of the horsepower you're paying for, which is great to see. Everything is fast, everything is smooth, games run incredibly well, and the thermals are surprisingly stable. Even during long gaming sessions, it stayed warm, but it never hit to the point of being uncomfortable for me. OnePlus is using what they call a 360 cryo velocity cooling system, which is basically a huge vapor chamber, white graphite on the back, and even an aerogel layer under the display that helps spread heat away from where your fingers rest. Whatever jargon you want to throw at it, the result is that performance doesn't nosedive after an hour of gaming, and the 165Hz screen runs natively in games like ones that I play a lot, like Call of Duty Mobile for example, and wow, does this thing look freaking amazing. The dedicated Wi-Fi chip also helps here. It supports Wi-Fi 7 with up to 50% better performance and stability in busy environments, so your connection feels a little bit more solid in multiplayer. On top of that, you've got 16GB of LPDDR5X RAM in this variant, and this phone just doesn't slow down. Opening apps is crazy fluid and fast, and this phone is a pleasure to use. It feels snappy every single time I pick it up and always keeps apps open in the background while not destroying battery life, which is the biggest strength of the OnePlus 15 in my opinion. I don't know how OnePlus managed to fit a 7,300 mAh battery into a phone that doesn't feel like a total brick, but this thing is an absolute monster. It's a dual cell silicone nanostack design, so you're getting more capacity without just making the phone thicker. I'm regularly seeing 10 plus hours of screen on time without even trying. This is one of those rare phones where I actually stopped checking the battery percentage throughout the day because it just didn't matter anymore. And at the end of the night, I still have plenty left, and if I need to top up, it charges incredibly fast with OnePlus's insanely fast charging, up to 80 watts on the included brick and up to 100 watts if you use their dual port adapter. Wireless charging is also very quick at around 50 watts with their pad. Basically, battery life and charging are unreal on this phone. Easily one of the best experiences I've ever had. But now we get to the part of this phone that gets a little bit complicated, and that's the camera. All three rear sensors are 50 megapixels, which does sound amazing, but the sensor size on all of them are smaller than last year's setup. And OnePlus dropped the Hasselblad branding entirely this year. On paper though, the hardware is still solid. The main camera is a 50 megapixel Sony IMX906 at 1/1.56 inch sensor. The ultra wide is another 50 megapixel sensor with a 116 degree field of view and autofocus, and the telephoto is a 50 megapixel 3.5x lens that can do up to 7 times optical quality zoom and 120 times digital. In good lighting, the main camera is actually better than I expected overall. Colors look very natural, HDR is very balanced, dynamic range is great, and it's not overly saturated or extremely washed out like other phones that I own. It sits in a very clean, natural middle ground. Under the hood, OnePlus is using what they call a Detail Max engine, which fuses multiple frames together to keep a ton of detail while controlling highlights and shadows. In practice, it gives you crisp, sharp images with good texture, especially in that 26 megapixel ultra clear mode, but for the detail you actually capture, well, as you can see from the photos on your screen right now, you can tell the sensor is smaller compared to the other big sensor flagships out there. It still feels good enough for social media and sending photos to family and friends, but it's not going to compete with the absolute best camera phones on the market right now, which is a shame because pretty much everything else on this phone is perfect. The telephoto, however, is actually pretty good. The 3.5 times lens gives you sharp, consistent shots with good contrast and really nice looking portraits. I was really impressed. Zoom beyond 7 times starts to fall apart a little bit, but everything up to 5 times looks pretty good and very usable. The ultra wide, it's fine. Totally fine, nothing crazy, good detail in the center, softer toward the edges, consistent colors with the main camera. It's really not bad at all, but also not something that's going to blow anyone away. Low light is where you start to notice the limitations the most, again because of the smaller sensor sizes. OnePlus has a clear night engine that tries to merge multiple exposures and clean up noise, and sometimes it does a really nice job, but you still get visible noise, you still lose fine detail, and sometimes colors look a little off. Again, very usable, just not very special. Video though is surprisingly strong. You can shoot up to 8K, but I mainly stick to 4K, and 4K 60 looks great, which is mainly what I use for all of my shots. Stabilization is smooth, it handles moving subjects really well in daylight video in particular, and it's very sharp and colorful. There is support for 4K 120 FPS Dolby Vision if you want super cinematic slow motion footage, and OnePlus is using real-time tone mapping to keep skin tones looking natural instead of shifting randomly when lighting changes. The front-facing camera is a 32 megapixel Sony IMX709 and has great autofocus, great colors, and good detail. I wasn't expecting much, to be completely honest, but it definitely delivers some great shots, so the camera experience here is pretty much good enough, but clearly not best in class. Now where OnePlus comes back to impress is the software. My device is running Oxygen OS 16 and it is absolutely stunning. I have grown to love the software more and more since I bought my OnePlus 12. Animations are fast, yet very fluid and polished. Navigation feels light and quick. Customization is extremely strong, which is something I love, and OnePlus is really leaning into AI this year, but in a way that feels actually useful instead of gimmicky. You've got Plus Mind, basically your central AI hub, which is backed by Gemini and can pull things together like notes, clippings, and links into something more searchable and organized. I underestimated how much I was going to use this feature. There's AI Recorder that can transcribe meetings and differentiate between speakers, and AI Portrait Glow that can intelligently brighten faces in photos shot in bad lighting. And then there's AI Play Lab, where OnePlus is testing new features like Yum-C for translating menus and other cool experimental things. On top of the AI features, the classic Oxygen OS stuff is all here. Fast, smooth animations, parallel processing 2.0 to keep everything feeling responsive when you're jumping between apps, and a UI that still looks clean instead of cartoonish. I have not experienced any bugs, crashes, or stutters, so when it comes to software, OnePlus has a really polished experience right out of the box. So after a few days of use, should you go out and buy the OnePlus 15? Okay, this is a phone that nails performance, battery, smoothness, and durability, but takes a step back in the camera department. If you're coming from a phone like the OnePlus 10, 11, or something from a few years ago, this is a massive upgrade. If you care about speed, gaming, having genuinely next level battery life, and a display that feels like it's one step ahead of everyone else's on the market, you're going to love this phone. The OnePlus 15 is honestly one of the most enjoyable phones I've used in a very long time, and as soon as it goes on sale in the US, this is going straight into my pocket as my daily driver. If this video helped you, please hit that like button down below and subscribe for more if you like what I do, and also hit that new height feature down below to help this video get to new viewers like yourselves, and I will see all of you next time.